sit on the floor. Finally, after 200 and whatever many days, people are feeling the pressure with 2 weeks left. I'm hoping.
Hello.
What makes me happy.
I love you. He's not saying anything yet.
Yeah, he's not saying anything.
We did that last time though, and like I couldn't hear what Mr. Sugar was saying because it was all you.
No, seriously.
He's not saying anything. He could be. You don't know that?
Okay,
It's
Africa.
creepy up there. No.
I've got a bunch of stuff, so we'll break it down into the 6 periods. I doubt that we're going to get to all 6 this morning. If I can get through the first 3, I think we'll be doing well. Some of the terms that are up here you should know. If you don't, you should probably write them down, and when I get to them, those are just there to trigger my thought process. Remember, Africa is where everything started in terms of humans. And then they diffuse from there, we believe, either in Southern Africa or Eastern Africa, and then they make their way slowly around the globe. Yay, Africa. Why is that possible? Because of the Neolithic Revolution. Even though that doesn't happen in Africa, even though that happens in the Middle East, it's probably at least significant to know that the Europeans or the people started in Africa and then they moved. Egypt is really the only one in this time period that we're going to look at. They're the only one of the 4 big river valley civilizations. You'll need to know Egypt, the Nile. You'll need to know the Tigris Euphrates. We'll get to them tomorrow with the Middle East. You'll need to know the Indus. We'll get to them whenever South Asia is. And we'll get to the Wangha, which is the Yellow River in East Asia and China. Those all develop independent of one another. They all are based on agricultural output. Egypt can trace its origins as an empire to 3100 BCE, where this guy named Narmer, also known as Menes, I don't know which one did your book use? I think Menes. Menes, it's the same guy. Okay? Narmer equals Menes. And he unifies Egypt upper and lower. Remember, Egypt flows backwards. And so South Egypt is actually in the north. Upper Egypt is in the south.
Is he a pharaoh?
With that?
Is he a pharaoh?
He is not a pharaoh. Pharaoh, actually, we don't use until the New Kingdom, which is going to be like 1070. And so Egypt's broken up into 3 kingdoms, Old, Middle, and New. Even though we look at these people as pharaohs now, they weren't called pharaohs back then. It is significant, however, that they use a theocracy, a church-run government, in which it is a divine, the pharaoh, the king, depending on what time period you're talking about, was seen as the leader, both spiritually as well as secularly, politically. Okay? We should probably know about just the general attitude of the Egyptians, very positive because of the Nile. Okay, it floods regularly, and so that makes people happy. Unlike the people in Mesopotamia, which we'll get to tomorrow. So if there was an essay, you should be able to compare and contrast early Mesopotamian culture with Egyptian culture. Mesopotamia bad, Egyptian good. Okay, they love the flooding of the Nile because it gives them all those things that they need for agriculture and things like that. Women's status, what do we know about it? It is relatively good for this time period. Okay, they are allowed to inherit property, they're allowed to initiate divorce and things like that. Things that other civilizations at this time would never dream of affording women the opportunity to. Okay? Slavery. They have it, but it's on a relatively limited scale. Okay? We do know that they had prisoners of war, and of course we'll see later on that they enslaved the Jews. the Hebrew people, etc. But overall, slavery isn't that big of a deal for the Egyptians. Okay? It is significant when they construct the pyramids because it shows that they can undergo massive public work projects with a huge amount of labor without really any sophisticated tools. Okay? And so those are still standing legacies. Nubia. Nubia is located south of Egypt. And because of its location, what would you suspect?
Gold.
Why gold?
I just don't have a lot of gold.
But that's not because of its location to Egypt. What would you expect because of its location?
Did they receive the same benefits as the Egyptians did with the Nile?
They do. They're a little further south, and so they're way up in upper Nile. I'm going to pass around a sheet. Put your name on it, please. Make sure you sign it. Make sure it goes all the way around. What can you expect if you are next to people, location-wise?
Trade.
You could. And so we do see trade. What else do we see, Nathan? Diffusion. And so Egypt had a lot of influence on the Nubians. And so you see a lot of Egyptian stuff in Nubia. You'll notice that I have Nubia over here in 600 BCE to 600 CE. That is because after Egypt collapses, guess who's going to keep Egyptian culture alive? The Nubians, who had been exposed to it previously by them being pretty much subjugated by the Egyptians. Okay? Now we look at sub-Saharan. Not a lot is going on in sub-Saharan. Remember, there was this drying out period of about 2,500 years. Significance about that, and remember, the Sahara was not always this lovely desert that we know of it today, but it was lush and everything else. But because of that drying out, that's what led people to those rivers, which led people to the Nile, which led them to create that Egyptian culture. So, sub-Saharan, everything below the Sahara, remember it's continuing to grow. We don't have any kind of kingdoms. We don't, in terms of empires, we do have smaller kingdoms and regional power. Okay? We know that there are people called the Bantu that live in sub-Saharan. What are they famous for?
Anti-migration.
Well, what else are they famous for? What else are they known for? Bantu, what are they known for? How do they make their money? And so whenever you look at an empire, what you